But one nation, one market, one tax has been driving motto which has brought 1.3 million taxpayers into a unified indirect taxation system. The introduction of GST has simplified business processes, tax administration and compliances in India. The Ease of Doing Business Index, in which paying taxes is one of the important parameters used to determine a country's rankings, has shown significant change. India's ranking during the last 3 years showed a sharp upward momentum from 100 in 2018 to 77 in 2019 and 63 in 2020, a jump of 37 places in a span of just 3 years. 5 years down the GST lane, there are challenges yet to be addressed, be it the highest tax rate of up to 28%, a large number of tax slabs, exclusion of products and sectors from petro products and power, resulting in cascading taxes, as well as technical glitches of the tax portal. To decode the hits, misses and progress of the GST regime, I'm being joined first on the show by Arvind Panagariya. He is the professor at Columbia University, a leading economist. Professor Panagariya, really appreciate your time. The original rationale for bringing the GST was to prevent the cascading of taxes, but it has also restricted revenue-raising autonomy of individual states. Initially, a 5-year compensation was provided to the states, which is coming to an end. How do you see it unfold from here on? An extension will take away the incentives to ensure proper compliance and promote formalization. Can there be a middle ground, and what could that be?
Maria, there is a broader question here where I think some sort of middle ground may be possible to find. And that is that, a very large number of goods, particularly those that are in the consumer price index basket, are simply not there in the GST net yet. And I think, ultimately, income tax really is paid by very, very few individuals. And it is proper to bring the citizenry into the tax net, at least in some nominal form, meaning that, we all should have a stake. We all should pay some taxes, not necessarily a very large amount, at least some. Redistribution can be done through expenditures. So, we should certainly support the poor, but not every instrument has to be used to do this redistribution. So the design of the taxation should be an efficient one, and one principle of that is to make the tax base broader, as broad as you can make it. And so this is where I think some possibility of a compromise may exist. That look, maybe compensation can be extended for. I think that's a political call as to for how many years. But some sort of negotiation could possibly be done that, you broaden the tax base to bring in some of these products that are, many of these products actually, which are currently not in the tax net, in return for some extension on compensation.
Okay. Professor Panagariya, the government has been pushing for formalization of the economy and has brought in several legislations to make that a possibility, including the GST. The monthly collection has gone up significantly. How feasible is it to use the GST collection data to put in place a cash flow based lending for MSMEs in particular? There are approximately 60 million MSMEs and the funding gap is estimated to be about 20 lakh crore. Won't it greatly help in formalization of the economy and higher tax collection? What is holding it back?
Look, the GST itself is relatively new, and it has taken some teething pains to get to where we are now, where at least the GST network is really functioning properly. And now there are issues of further formalization, issues of using the information that the GST network kind of provides us at various levels. I think, there is a lot of information being provided that the government can also use. A lot of the surveys that of enterprises that we do, for example, now would be done, I hope, using the GST list of companies as the sample frame. Likewise, now you mentioned, using the record that is created of the smaller firms paying their GSTs and those who are regular payers of their taxes and have good record could then use that record to borrow. And I certainly think that's a very eminently possible thing to happen. But, this is still work in progress. Some of it may be happening, we do not know. Certainly it's not happening on a large scale just yet. But I think it'll happen. And this is a very good thing we have done. And it opens the door to many things. I gave you two examples, one about using the record to borrow, and also, to use the data and also use the universe of the firms in the GST as a sample frame to do our enterprise surveys.
Okay, Professor Panagariya, we are seeing opposition up in arm against the hike in GST. On the opposition's constant question of the number of rates or GST slabs, do you think further rationalization is required? Do you think one rate would be too impractical in India, which is so diverse and has a very different tax profile?
Look, the rationalization in India, because of this noisy democracy, is always slow, and it has to be done in steps. So the way you pose the question, of one single rate, I think that will perhaps at this point of multiple rates which are in existence in GST would be a little too radical. But, it will be good to start thinking in terms of two rates. I think that's a feasible proposition. With some effort, I think states can be brought on board. So that is, and I agree on this one, that rationalization is required. I think multiple rates need to be, I haven't counted, but I know that there are easily 4 rates or more. And going to 2, I think, should be our goal at this point. Maybe, in the next couple of years, we should try to accomplish that.
Last question to you before I let you go. Is the GST somewhat failing as it still micromanages rates on small items?
See, whenever you have too many rates, then inevitably you see there will be lobbying that, put me into the lower rate. And that is really the most powerful argument for having a single rate. Then, the only thing they can come in and seek is raise the rate or lower the rate. I mean, obviously, the enterprise will say lower the rate, but they can't come in and say that lower my specific rate. But as long as you got many of these rates, there will always be this push by the enterprises that, lower my rate. And push me from 18 to 12% or 5%, and that is where I think truly having a single rate is a good thing. But 2, which could be something like 12% and 18%, let's say, would be a big progress, right? So because then maximally what you would get the pressure for is those with 18% would try to say, well, bring me down to 12. But given the revenue needs, etc., the government will be on a much firmer footing, and it would deny that request. But when you got so many rates, then of course it becomes harder.
All right, Professor Panagariya, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for your